Hello, my friends and colleagues. First of all, I must apologize to you that I could not participate in the event due to my health issues. I underwent a surgery a couple of days ago, and that has totally, retarded my mobility altogether. But just when I was feeling very guilty, I happened to have a word with Minna, and she was so gracious that she allowed me to send the recording of this presentation. I will not put my camera on. However, you can see me how I look like. So now I continue with my presentation. Uh, Sorry. So this is the title of the presentation, the impact of the board of directors characteristics on the capital structure of the Finnish and the Swedish listed companies. And this paper is written in co-authorship with my student, Theodora Bobdudan. She's a wonderful student and she has done a great job and her thesis is marvelous. So I was so much impressed by her thesis that we decided that let's not keep the thesis, which, you know, doesn't go too far. So let's make it a publication. So now we are working on writing a full-fledged paper based on this, the work that she has done and I have supervised. And we have made a lot of changes already. The lit review we have changed significantly. The data size has been increased, and now we have applied more rigorous methodology. And we are planning to apply more rigorous methodology in the near future as well. Um, the background is that the modern day world and corporate sector is no exception. We are struggling with the resource scarcity. There are so many environmental challenges that have engulfed us. There's no escape route. And there are other societal problems. I mean, if you look at the last 15, 20 years, the kind of disruptions, good or bad, in technological sense, in environmental, in societal, they have been really massive. Since the corporate sector cannot work mutually exclusively, it's a part of the society, it's a part of the larger ecosystem. Therefore, when we do the introspection, we find that there has to be a change, there has to be rather changes, radical changes in the company's vision, mission, strategies, and operations, because those things which are applicable in the good times are not always valid in the challenging times. I will not call it bad times, but I will call it challenging times. Like leadership, like business organization, the business organization basically are the reflection of the kind of people who are leading them. Therefore, the impact of the board of directors characteristics, who are the top leadership, that make a lot of impact on the company's performance, strategic decision making, even day-to-day operations. And we, in this working process, we have taken four characteristics of the leadership slash board of directors. The age of the board. Uh, uh, I must say that it's very important for me to clarify that the input data has been taken from the individual board of director members. And then after collecting the data from the individual board of directors about their age, about their education, the gender diversity, and the multiple directorships, which means their other affiliation, not just confined to one company, but their other affiliation. For example, the CEO of Nokia could be the board of director of Nordea as well. So how much they are busy in the other company. So what I'm trying to say is that we have collected the data from the individual director, and but after we collected it, we compiled it for the board, overall board. So basically, we calculated the averages, like average age of the board of directors, average educational level of board of directors. What is the average gender diversity? What's the average other engagements of the boards of directors? And on top of that, we took some the the institutional characteristics of the companies. We took the board size and how independent the board is. So these are the core issues that we are trying to address. The corporate leadership characteristics, board size, board independent can also impact various financial metrics, not just financial metrics based on performance, but also based on the strategic decision making, such as capital structure. Capital structure is the, if I go by the traditional sense of this word, its capital structure is basically, of course, we have very fancy forms of financing, but capital structure is for the listed company is still primarily debt and equity. Debt and equity are still the first and the foremost choices of the listed companies when it comes to capital structure. Capital structure is also called financial structure of the company, and it says where the money comes from. Investing is where the money goes to. Uh, Financing is where money comes from. Okay. And the capital structure, the financing is always shown on the balance sheet of the company. I'm trying to make it a little bit more clear because I'm not sure. Maybe some people don't have any accounting or finance background. The research questions of the study are, do the characteristics of the board of directors have an impact on the capital structure in reference to total debt? The total debt to equity. And the second one is, do the characteristics of the board of directors have an impact on the capital structure in reference to the long-term debt? If you see the first and the second question look pretty much clone of each other, but there's one big difference. In the first question, I'm addressing total debt, which includes the short-term debt and the long-term debt. But in the second question, I'm only addressing the long-term debt. Why I'm making this segregation? Because the short-term debt is not something you can really rely upon to make such massive strategic investments. So if you want to make some strategic decisions of the company, the short-term debt is not reliable. The short-term debt is more like, financing your operations and, if you have any liquidity crisis, if you don't have enough money to pay for the salaries of the staff for this month, you can have some short-term arrangements. But the long-term debt is, really it really makes a difference. And in finance and accounting, the cutoff line between the short term and the long term is the 364 days. If you borrow under less than 365 days, it's a short term debt. But if you borrow 365 and above it, above can be 20 years, then it becomes the long term debt. So that's why I try to separate. And I have taken the Finnish and Swedish companies. The rationale is that this issue has been addressed quite a lot in the Anglo-Saxon settings, but less research. So far, I didn't find many studies, or not really, deep down, which are in the context of the Finnish and the Swedish companies. And why I took Finland and Sweden, because their corporate landscape is pretty much comparable. I won't say same, but similar and comparable. That's the reason. The review of literature we have done quite extensively, and as I mentioned in the beginning, that we are still doing it. It's not complete yet. Um, Generally speaking, the literature is having not consensus about the board age. There's a lot of division. There are some group of researchers who say that when the older board members are there, they have a lot of network capital. I mean, they have decades of experience and contacts under their belt. And when they join a company, they not only join as a person, but they also bring their old contacts also. So if the company is in crisis or in any form of seeking any consultancy, any guidance, they can bank upon their old contacts. But on the other hand, there are studies that the older board members, they are very, they lack fluidity and the resilience. So they they can be sometimes too adamant to change themselves, and they see the things in a very different perspective, in a very old perspective, the perspective which reflect their good old time. However, the younger board members, they are quite resilient. They can, they can find way and they can maneuver and they are more flexible when it comes to decision making. So the literature is not very unanimous when it comes to the board age. Similarly, the higher education leads to better decision making. Of course, this you don't even need research to say this thing. If you are more educated, your horizon, your thought process is so different that you can make better decision. However, there are some studies. I just mentioned one, Miller and Sue. They say that actually the board members who are more educated, they start developing the agency cost to the firm. And just in case you don't know, the agency cost is that when the CEO and the top managers like CFO, CMO, when they start serving their personal interest more than the company's interest. So basically, they are taking wealth away from the company for the personal vested interests. So it's Miller and Sue have actually clarified that it could be possible that the more educated people, directors, they are actually not dedicated to the company, but they are dedicated to themselves. So that way, this factor, which apparently look very obvious, is not so obvious. If you dig deep, you can find the different nuances of the education as well. Most of the studies are supportive of the gender diversity. The board which are more gender diverse, the company are better. They have a high legitimacy in the eyes of the investors and the other stakeholders. And more diversity means you can make better decisions. You can think out of the box sometimes. However, the Hillsland study find that when it comes to really, really, really managing the risky investment, or there is a crisis and there is especially the financial crisis when the company face, then the male directors are better in managing those risks. Okay, this is not my opinion. This is just what the literature has said. Um, the board busyness. In fact, I have done a lot of research. I got a lot of publications about busyness in my in ResearchGate. Busyness means that the busyness basically means that the director of one company, they are also affiliated to the other companies as well. This issue can be discussed both through the lenses of the agency cost and the agency theory and the resource dependence theory. From agency perspective, I can say that if you are a very busy director, you may lack time and resources to dedicate to the company you are affiliated to. The company needs you right now, but you are attending the board of director meeting of some other company. So you're not available when you're needed, basically. That is the agency phenomenon. The resource dependence, take it positively. It says that when you are affiliated with many companies, you learn more of the best practices. You learn so many new things, and those things you can bring and try to implement in the company which you are actually affiliated with. So you learn. Resource dependence theory says that when you are having multiple directorships, in fact, it's your learning process. You learn a lot. You learn the good and the bad things of different organizations, and you try to bring the good ones to in your own company. Capital structure, as I mentioned in the beginning, is comprising of debt and equity, and it has own pros and cons. Um, People say that debt is cheaper. Why it's cheaper? Because when you pay the interest, you pay the interest before you pay the tax. So actually, the tax burden is not falling if you borrow. Why? Because the interest payment, they are shown as expense before the tax is paid. However, if you look at the equity holders, the shareholders, they get the residual claim. I mean, they get the money after the company has paid the tax. It could be possible that nothing is left for them. So that way, debt looks cheaper to the company. And also, debt makes the managers more responsible. By definition, if you have a company with 100% of equity, neither you are supposed to give any dividend nor returning the money. In fact, I'm making a very extreme picture, but that is in theory. However, with the debt, this luxury is not available. With the debt, when you make a contract, you are bound. You mean the company is bound to return the principal amount borrowed, and then the interest which they have promised, they also have to give. So there are some good and bad things attached about the debt and equity. About equity, there's a luxury that you don't need to return the money, so you can. But well, at the same time, it can make managers more complacent. Uh, Florian says that the businesses having volatile revenue um, should avoid handling the debt, because the problem with the debt is that you have certain fixed dates when you have to return the money, the installment, and the interest. So if you are a company having very volatile cash flow, it could be possible that on the day of returning the money to the bank or to the other organization, you don't have money, and then you can run into the financial mess. Okay, so the companies which are having more, I would say, stable cash flow, like retail sector, they are good borrowers than some biotech company, for instance. The market conditions, such as interest rates, can make a big difference. In these days, when the interest rates are skyrocketing, it's not a good idea to rely too much on debt, because that can, jeopardize the cash flow of the company. These are the hypotheses which I made. I will not read them. This is based on the literature review, but all they're saying is that these are the factors which are affecting the capital structure. Um, the literature has not said that the board of directors characteristics do not affect the capital structure. What literature has said is that it can affect positively, but at the same time, it can affect negatively. That's why I'm not taking any side that it's affecting positively or negatively. Therefore, for example, I'm writing here the median age of the board of directors affect a firm's capital structure. I never said that it's affecting positively or negatively, because there's no unanimity in the literature about this. The research framework, secondary data has been taken from 24 Finnish companies, 36 Swedish companies. Actually, the one reason I have to take the Swedish companies is that the large cap companies in Finland are not many. That could have created the sample smaller. So in order to increase the sample size, plus the Finland and Sweden, they are, as I said before, are pretty much comparable. Therefore, I added Sweden as well. And the data has been taken for 9 years, from 2012 to 2020. Refinitiv data stream has been taken as a data source. It used to be called Thomson Reuters Icon, but now it's called Refinitiv. Descriptive analysis has been done, correlation has been done, and the multivariate ordinary least. These are some statistical techniques which I would explain to you later. This is the composition of the sample. So the larger share is the industrial companies, and then after 27 there is 13% consumer goods, then 12% are the construction and material, followed by 10% consumer services, and so on and so forth. There are telecom companies as well, which is 7%. And these are the definitions of the variables that I have used and how they are calculated. So there is a debt to equity ratio. The symbol I have used is D to E, and the definition is that it's calculated by dividing debt with the equity. The book value has been used, but in the near future, when we are updating it, we are also taking the market value of equity. And then the same thing we do with the long-term debt to equity, because we are separating these two variables: age, the median age of a firm directors. So, for example, if the 6 directors in a board, we find their age, and then we find the average median age, and that represents the board age, basically, in that years. Remember, we are not calculating this age, size, education, whatever, 1 year. We are doing it for 9 years, basically. So age for a company, let's say Nokia, the age has appeared 9 times because the data has been collected from 2012 to 2020. Education is measured with this. The bachelor degree is given label 1, master degree, 3 is doctorate, and 0 is below bachelor. If somebody has, 2 masters, then we don't count 2 plus 2, then we count 2 plus 1 to make it 3, equivalent to bachelor. Gender is like female board members divided by the total board size. The busyness is the number of other affiliation that the board of directors have. We calculate once again for each director, and then we find the median busyness. Board independence, how much are the independent directors in the board of directors? By independent directors, definition is that these are the directors who are not on the payroll of the company. Their job is to invigilate, to monitor, to control, and provide guidance to the company's executive board as and when necessary. And the firm value is taken as the total value of the company is taken. These are the models I've used. You don't need to go through them, but these are the findings. You can see that the median age of the board of directors is 57.50 year. The maximum is 69.5, and the minimum is 44. Highest board size has been found to be 12. The smallest has been 5. The median has been 8. Education. The highest score has been 43, which basically means that more educated board. And there is one board where nobody is even, the bachelor's degree. So, below bachelor means 0. So basically nobody have any, no score. Gender, the median female directors representing the board are 33%. Highest has been 67%. And then there are some companies where there's no female board of director. This is very, disappointing. I mean, in a country like Finland, and I would say even Sweden, when the role of women is so important in the society, I don't see that there is exact the same reflection in the corporate boards of directors also. So we are very proud of this phenomenon that the women in Nordic countries are highly powerful. Their emancipation in all the walks of life is very significant. Unfortunately, the same doesn't exist when it comes to the corporate board of directors. Okay. Independent, 45% is the average. There's one company which has 100%, so that's 1, and least is 0.4. And then D to E, you can see, and there's a minimum is negative. Negative debt to equity ratio means the company is not borrowing, rather the company is retiring the debt. I mean, it's giving back to the lenders. This is the most important thing. I can try to explain to you. Our dependent variables are the log value. Why I took the log value? Because if I only take the debt to equity, it can make my results very linear, unnecessary predictable. So to reduce this unnecessary predictability, I have taken the logarithmic value so that the absolute values do not make much impact. And then if you notice, even though I take age, board size, education, but when it comes to real analysis, I also take the logarithmic values of these variables. This is so because I want that the values, absolute values, should not be having any impact. And you can find that the age does not affect. I mean, if you can see here, note, if the 3 stars, it means that there is significance of 1%, which means that the 99% of confidence, we can say that the result is true. And if the significance level is 2 star, which means 5%, then we can say with 95% of confidence that the results are true. And if there is 0.1, which means 10%, then we can only say 90% of confidence that the result is true. It means that out of these 3-star, 2-star, and 1-star, the results with 3 stars are most reliable. And you can see that in the age, there's no star, basically. It means that the age of the board does not make any impact, neither on the total debt nor on the long-term debt. However, the board size, larger is the board size, there is no impact on the total debt to equity. However, on the long-term debt, there's a negative relationship. The board sizes, the companies with a larger board, they avoid having more debt, especially the long-term debt. Maybe they feel that there is a more pressure on them to return the money. That's why, even though they might value the importance of the debt, but still they don't want. Similarly, education, more educated board of directors, both type of debt are increasing. Yeah, gender, for the total debt, the board of director where more females are there, there's less debt in comparison to equity. Busyness doesn't make any difference. We didn't find any evidence. Independent, the more independent board of directors, they try to avoid having the debt, because if the executive want to borrow more, the independent director can put so much of questioning to them that they are discouraged to borrow. Board size, yes, that's very interesting. Age and board size. Sorry, here if you find, I multiplied two variables. The board whose age is more and the board whose size is more, they are borrowing more. Here I was studying individual variables, but here I multiplied two variables, age and board size. Companies where the board of directors are older and the board size is bigger, they like to borrow more. So if you see a company where the board size is massive, and at the same time there are very elderly board members, they are the one who borrow more. Age and independent directors, no, it doesn't change much. The same as before, negative. Board size and educated, again negative, so it doesn't change anything. Board size and independent, no, so it doesn't make any difference. The only difference I see that the companies where the board of directors education is higher and the gender is more of female than men, they are able to borrow more the long-term debt. This finding is very startling and it comes in conflict with so many previous studies. Yeah. Similarly, if you are educated, the board is highly educated, and the board members are busy, means they're affiliated with so many companies, the long-term debt to equity ratio is higher, and educated and independent board members. So you can see that there's a very mixed results. Some characteristics individually are showing negative sign, but when they are coupled with some other variable, then the sign changes. In some cases, there's no impact at all. And just in case you want to know this R square, there is 14.7% explanation has been given by these variables and these models. Whereas for the long-term debt, this is 24%. Statistically, any R square which is more than 10% is reliable. So we are pretty much able to explain the phenomenon. I mean, the rest things are just formalities, 2 point, Durbin, Watson. These are just like by default and things. So these are the main findings of this study, the conclusion, which I already explained to you. But I also mentioned to you that this is a work in process. And hopefully in the next couple of months, we would be able to complete this study with more analysis, and we can certainly improve the quality of this work. And thank you so much for your patience and giving me a chance to present in absentia. I wish all the best to you. I wish all the best to the conference organizers. And I hope that at some stage in the near future, we would have face-to-face meeting as well. All the best.